You ready? All right. I'd like to call to order the Planning Commission meeting for September 13th, 2022. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call of members, please.
Commissioner Esparza. Here. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Here.
Commissioner Moody. Here. Vice Chair Anderson.
Here.
Chair Weisenberger.
Here. Agenda item number 1, approval of minutes from the August 9th meeting.
I'll move to approve the minutes from August 9th.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Esparza. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yes.
Commissioner Moody. Vice Chair Anderson.
Yes.
Chair Weisenberger.
Yes. Okay. All right, let's move to agenda item number 2. We have a zoning ordinance text amendment, number 28. This is a request to amend zoning ordinance regulations citywide to replace, add, and amend definitions and include minor amendments to allowable uses, off-street parking requirements, and other minor revisions for the purpose of maintaining conformity with state law, implementing the paramount housing element, bringing internal consistency within the zoning ordinance, and clarifying outdated text. Okay, do we have a report for this?
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the commission, we are still working on this, so it's recommended that you open the public hearing and continue it to the meeting in October.
Okay, very good. Then let's open the public hearing portion of our meeting, and then we will need a motion to continue the public hearing to the October 11th meeting. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to open the public hearing and make a motion to continue it to October.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded twice. Good. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Esparza. Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yes.
Commissioner Moody. Vice Chair Anderson.
Yes.
Chair Weisenberger.
Yes. Okay, item number 3. We have an oral report. This is an update on Lower Los Angeles River Restoration and Access Project by the South Coast Trout Unlimited. We have some guest speakers tonight. Welcome.
Yes.
Thank you, John.
Mr. Chair and commissioners, in April, Karen Barnett and Robert Blankenship from Trout Unlimited provided the Planning Commission with an overview of the Lower Los Angeles River Channel Restoration and Access Project. They've completed a technical design memorandum, and they're here to present the results of that. Thank you.
Wonderful. Mr. Chairman, commissioners, city staff, thank you for having us tonight. We wanted to give an overview of kind of the outcome of what we looked at in a technical analysis of the modification of the Lower Los Angeles River. We received funding from the Rivers and Mountains Conservancy, and it was a 1-year schedule to really take a look at what the potential would be for modifying the river to make it more user-friendly, more fish, bird, wildlife friendly. So this is what we came up with. The project site is adjacent to Dills Park from Rosecrans to Somerset on the south. Why here? A number of reasons. There's the river channel in the lower river, along the lower river communities in general, is wider and it's got more capacity for modification. In other words, we could add features to it that would not impact flood control, would allow us to maintain flood control. Also, the lower river revitalization plan identified the Sands neighborhood as one of the few communities along the lower river which would not be, they could characterize it as not vulnerable to gentrification. In other words, there's a high percentage of homeowners in the Sands neighborhood that any amenities or new benefits from a naturalized channel wouldn't negatively affect those folks. Those are our two big ones. Careful. Okay, and this is from the revitalization, the Lower River Revitalization Plan, which was shepherded by Anthony Rendon and his office. The three primary components: modifying the low flow channel, including river overlooks, and then access ramps to get to allow people to enter into the channel. We had to consider flood control, right? The primary consideration as it's constructed is to not flood into the neighborhoods, to fully contain and safely convey floodwaters to the ocean. So as we looked at this, a little bit of a technical graph, but what we saw was that near the bridges is where the greatest likelihood of existing floods concern. So we couldn't do much modification there, but if you look at the darker line in the middle of the project reach is where more modification of the in-channel is possible. So we tried to take a creative look at how could we do that and emphasize more benefits to the channel, but not have it look jump out at you and look kind of goofy as far as we did something in the middle, but why didn't you do anything at the bridges? So. And this is the short answer to what we came up with. If you look, we restored some sinuosity to the channel. Right now, the low flow channel is arrow straight, so we could restore some sinuosity. If you look in the middle of the project reach there, you see more vegetation. You see a side channel there. There's also pedestrian paths, and you also see some of the existing concrete remaining. It wouldn't really be possible in a flood control context to take out all the concrete and have a natural bottom, okay? But if we can create really an experience for people and fish and birds and wildlife, that would be our goal. And then if you look at the bottom of that graph and also at the top, you'll see that as we approach the bridges, then the vegetation starts going away and the channel begins to straighten out, okay? And that's a nod to the flood conveyance requirements of the County Public Works and the Army Corps of Engineers. And one of the other features is on the right side of the channel there. You'll see some trees, vegetation along the top of the levee, which would provide shade to the existing bike path. And there's also up in the upper right there, it might be kind of hard to see, but there's an overlook and the access ramp in that area. And a section of it here. This would be the maximum or the middle of the channel. You can see sinuosity where the channel begins to wander. There's considerable vegetation, but not all. And then you see on the right-hand side there too, that's where the trees could be located at the top of the levee. And then in some of the profile views there, you see again, where some of the vegetation is present, along with the modified channel, there's room for bikes and horses, and also maintenance vehicles to drive along the bottom of the channel. And this is just a close-up here. As said, when it's a balancing act. We need to satisfy the flood control folks, but we also want to see some measure of naturalization. So much of the new concrete would be perforated. We'd have planter boxes that would allow natural native vegetation to grow, But then as that vegetation goes dormant and dies down in the winter, it's still able to take root and survive the floods that come in the winter, that hopefully come every winter. So, and this is your part.
So the project you just saw is the outcome of a community event held in April. We did the Paramount Eco Fair, and we also held a event at Dills Park for the adjacent neighborhood. We received comments and showed 3 concepts: a low, medium, and high. And the project you just saw is a blending of the medium and high. Most people wanted to see restoration, they wanted to be able to use the space, and they wanted benefits. So that was our goal, is to meet those needs. And then our process also included Odyssey STEM Academy. We worked with Capstone, we worked with seniors on their Capstone project in the areas of outreach, design and planning, flood control, and access. So throughout I would say about 6 months, 7 months, they worked closely with different team members, and we held a field trip forum at the end of March where they could see the project site itself and compare it to the Middle River, which is the opposite, has lots of wildlife and habitat, but it has flood issues. In stark contrast to this section, which has just a single use of flood control. There we go. Taking it on to you.
Okay, and then also too, we received a lot of input from the community. They're concerned about the lack of parking. Okay, to be able to access the project. There's one small parking lot adjacent to Dills Park. They're concerned, many of the people at the Senior Commission were concerned about safety. They don't feel safe even going up on the bike path because a lot of bikes go real fast there. And then, some of the other issues of, some troublemakers that might be hanging out and whatnot. So to try to address those, we've had conversations with the city of Compton about the Compton Golf Course. Compton Golf Course is immediately adjacent to the project area, and they've got a big parking lot which could be really useful for accessing the area. The golf course has been closed since the start of COVID. When a facility is not being used, regularly occupied, some troublemakers came in and ransacked some of the equipment and buildings and whatnot. But it's being taken over by a management firm. It'll still be a golf course, but it'll be managed by PGA West. Is going to be the new facility operations management there, and I have to believe that they're businessmen, and if we could drive traffic to their front door, even though they may not be golfers and want to access the river. They've still got a snack shack there. They've still got people that may want to hit a bucket of balls. And really, it seems like, and from speaking with David Johnson about Dills Park in specific, that the more, everyday people that are just kind of down there doing their thing, that kind of makes the troublemakers uncomfortable, and they just feel like they might want to go somewhere else to occupy. So we don't have anything confirmed with them, but that's something we're pursuing going forward. And then also, there's a number of neat businesses down Somerset, and Somerset is, from my perspective, it's kind of in between. It doesn't have an off ramp, so it doesn't get as much arterial traffic that say Rosecrans or Alondra would. But at the same time, there are some businesses located along there that could benefit from people that want to come see this, that look and say, hey, they did something really different with the river down there. And so there could be and also an economic benefit to the local community there. And then this shows this project. I think it's not going to be inexpensive. We're looking for state and federal sources for funding for this. Okay, the RMC has funded us to date. There's also monies available from Department of Fish and Wildlife, Wildlife Conservation Board, Natural Resources Agency, State Coastal Conservancy. And if you stack up what those agencies have funded to date, I kind of put some pins on the drawing there. They've funded Malibu Creek, they've funded Malibu Lagoon, they funded Topanga Lagoon, Bologna Creek on Marina del Rey, Palos Verdes, Seal Beach, Huntington Beach, and Newport Beach. And you start to see a pattern there, right, of where the financial resources are being allocated. So, I think we've got a good argument for bringing resources to the local community away from projects that have been funded to date.
So our next step is to go after those funding resources. Here you'll see the letters of support from you all and the City of Paramount, the Army Corps, and I think that one's County Flood Control, could be RMC. But now that we've got the foundation for the flood and a conceptual design based on that and community input, we're looking forward to seeking out grants in the next couple, I would say, next 2 to 6 months.
And I think
That's
that we
it.
wanted to keep it brief and to the point. So
Yeah.
that'll concede, but we're certainly open to any questions.
Yes.
I have a question. Have you done any projects like this before in the river?
I don't know that anybody's done something like this.
Yeah, I don't-
We-
that's-
we-
I've seen
we've-
anything.
We've done we've done work in Orange County. We have we're kind of the local base of a national organization. So our national group has done projects in the Midwest and Northwest and so forth. So I think we have a good understanding and relationship with the Army Corps and a good understanding of the flood control issues. And that illustration, it's really illustrative of what could happen and still meet flood concerns, but at the same time, we're still looking and we're actively seeking, local input, local artists or landscape designers that could really put, a local touch on what, what the river should look like. Should it, you notice we had nice smooth edges there and everything, or should it look like someone went in and busted out the concrete and made it look like, a natural river? It's just, if we can be the engineering interface piece of the puzzle, but then the community itself, tells us what it should and could look like, I think that would be the best way forward.
And if, of course, any type of plants or landscaping that wouldn't be at risk with any type of big type flooding, because I've seen that riverbed where it's almost up to the top.
Yeah.
And it doesn't last a long time, but it has gotten to that point.
Yeah, it's funny. I think a lot of the existing native vegetation, it goes dormant in the winter, so it gets real lush in the summer. It goes dormant in the winter. It dies down, and it's adapted to weather these storm events. Usually I think it's probably the high water comes and it's maybe a day or two that the high water comes and then it drops back down. Maybe there's going to be another storm in a week or a month or so. but it's really adapted. The native plants are adapted to survive that. Hunker down, make it through, and then be ready to go. So.
And I think, to improve the user experience, we did concrete treatment. So if we go back to that cutout slide, it's not all plants within an area. And there was a textured concrete and potentially even painting of it. So it feels like the whole bed is activated, but it's actually not. And that was due to the H&H the team did.
That's hydrology and hydraulics.
Oh, sorry.
Follow-up question. In other projects that you may have done, is there any mitigating factors that you have implemented to prevent what Chairman Gordon brought up? I mean, this will definitely take some funding. We definitely want to protect it when this project comes to goes live.
So I guess the question, there's two things. How do we make sure that it doesn't fill up with mud on the first storm, right? And how do we also, at the same time, ensure that everything doesn't get scoured out and end up down in Long Beach at the same time? So, I think just one of the flood concerns, what happens when let's say we roughen the bottom, we put plants down there. What happens is it slows down the water, and that causes the water to take up more capacity and want to flood. And the water when you look at it, the water's moves at a good clip down to Long Beach. But at the same time, what engineers call the shear stress at the very bottom of the river, where the plants, where the water and the plants meet, because those plants slow the water down, there's less tendency to scour. Now, that doesn't mean that it doesn't need to be considered and addressed. But we feel confident by having an irregular bottom and evaluating those shear stresses going forward that we can put together a success.
I think it's important to say that this is conceptual, and in the next phase, which would be to take it to design or potentially shovel-ready for implementation, we'd be working with the county and also do further flood study too. Because it's not like the done deal. It's conceptual. It has the foundation that it works, and we have to do that next step.
Any other questions here?
I just have a comment. I just would like to say thank you for working with the Odyssey students. I'm sure they really enjoyed it and exposed them to the part of the river that is like this, more in LA, right? On their
Yeah. And it was really great because they also, was it two of our seniors participated in a federal partnerships meeting too, and told about their different projects.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was awesome.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah, I think it was that we're part of this Urban Waters federal partnership, which is federal, all sorts of EPA, Army Corps, so forth. And I even had one gentleman from the State Department call me after and say, "What a great job."
Good. Well, thank you for your continued work on this, and we hope to you keep us posted along the way.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And then what we've done presently is we've submitted to County Public Works. We've submitted for a permit to do this job. Now, we're not ready to get a permit to do this job. We've still got a lot of long ways to go. But that's the process we need to engage in order to get their formal comments back to what their position is and so forth. They own the land. There's 2 parcels, and the county owns the whole thing. So the acquisition costs are zero. Remediation costs would be minimal. So even though it's never cheap to develop a new park or open space, I think a number of the acquisition and remediation costs that have, kind of beleaguered other projects up and down the river are really not an issue here. So we'll be back once we get as long as we don't get the permit, right?
Very good. Thank you again.
Thank you,
All right,
guys.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, let's move to agenda item number 4, oral reports, city council actions.
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the commission. Last week at the city council meeting, the city council introduced a density bonus for affordable housing, which was something that you had looked at the previous month. And that was it. Thank you.
Okay, very good, thank you. Okay, agenda item number 5, comments. Anything from our city attorney tonight?
No comments tonight.
Okay. Commissioners, any comments? Okay. Our staff?
Yes, I do have one comment. We have a new planning intern. She's sitting over next to Sol. Her name is Smyrna Caraveo, and Smyrna grew up in the environmentally impacted community in the city of Commerce. Because of her desire to help other communities, she decided to endeavor the field of planning. Smyrna graduated with Latin honors at UCLA this June with a bachelor's degree in public affairs and minor in urban and regional studies. She is now continuing her education, starting her Master of Urban Planning degree at USC this fall with a full tuition scholarship. On her free time, she enjoys going to the beach, camping, and traveling to new places. Smyrna is extremely excited to be starting her new role as a planning intern with the City of Paramount, where she will learn and grow in her professional career. So, welcome. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay, and that about does it for our agenda tonight. We're going to adjourn now to our next meeting on October 11th, 2022 at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Board Member Anderson.
Here.
Board Member Moody. Board Member Weisenberger.
Here.
Vice Chair Gonzalez.
Here.
Chair Esparza.
Here. Next item is the approval of the minutes of August 9th, 2022. I need a motion.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Board Member Anderson.
Yes.
Board Member Moody. Board Member Weisenberger.
Yes.
Vice Chair Gonzalez.
Yes.
Chair Esparza.
Yes. Any public comments?
No public comments?
New business?
Nothing this month.
Any comments from board members,
No.
staff?
No.
Okay, the Paramount Development Review Board is adjourned till October 11th, 2022.
Call to order the Paramount Economic Development Board. Roll call.
Board Member Anderson.
Here.
Board Member Esparza.
Yes.
Board Member Weisenberger.
Here.
Vice Chair Gonzalez.
Here.
Chair Moody.
Approval of the minutes for August 9th.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Public comments on,
We should do a roll call for the approval of the minutes.
give roll call for them.
Yes. Board Member Anderson.
Yes.
Board Member Esparza.
Yes.
Board Member Weisenberger.
Yes.
Vice Chair Gonzalez.
Yes.
Chair Moody.
Okay, public comments,
No public comments?
new business.
Yes, Mr. Chair and members of the board, so Sol Bejarano, our management analyst, is going to give you an update on our small business assistance grant program, which we started with it's an online platform. And when did we start? Still August 3rd?
Yes.
Okay, started August 3rd, and we're rapidly awarding grants and going through the amount of money that we had budgeted, so we'll give you an update.
Thank you, John. Good evening, board members. Today's presentation is an update on our Small Business Assistant Grant Program funded by ARPA funds. So far, the city has allocated $472,500 to this program in award funding. To date, there have been 44 applications received, with 8 businesses already having received grants in the amount of $20,000 each, for a total of $160,000 grant funding combined. There have been 9 soft applications, or 9 denied applications, and there are 14 in progress. The reason for denial include not having provided sufficient information to substantiate a direct negative COVID-19 impact, revenue being above the $2 million threshold, number of employees greater than 20, and not having a qualified business license within the time period specified. The following slide is a visual representation
So can
of
you
the program
back it up?
collected.
Thank you.
Where it's not working.
There you go.
Okay, sorry about that. This is a visual representation of the data having been collected. This slide provides an overview which includes the breakdown of the website traffic along with the application status. So if you look to your lower left, it's a graph, a representation of the number of applications submitted on any particular date. For example, the day the application portal went live, we had 9 applications received, while on August 17th, we had 1 application received. The lower graph on the right-hand corner represents the application status based on LifeStory's internal soft approval or denial process. What this means is basically it's indicative of LifeStory's recommendations that they then forward to city staff for final review and confirmation for their recommendations. And I do have a small update. As of today, we actually received 8 additional businesses that are being recommended for approval and funding. And this concludes the presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
And Life Stories is the company that's running the platform for us.
I have a question.
Yes.
So the businesses that apply for this, they have to have upwards of $2 million loss, or?
No, overall revenue, gross revenue is $2 million or less.
Or less.
Or less?
Or less.
Oh, I see.
Right.
And they have to have at least 26 employees?
At least 20 employees or less.
Or less? Oh, I
Right.
see.
We're trying to target the small business.
Question, these are all Paramount businesses?
They are all Paramount businesses at the storefront, either qualified home business as well.
Now, the grants can range. It just so happens that all the ones that have been approved have been for $20,000 each?
Correct. They're allowed to request any amount up to $20,000. Obviously, the ones that have been awarded thus far have requested and received the $20,000.
Good.
Comments? Board member?
No comment.
I don't have any comments.
Staff? Comments?
Nothing from staff?
The meeting to the 18th of October?